Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Katrina Liberio, and I'll be your MC for today's event, Access Ideas and Insights, the Emerging Artist Toolkit. To begin, I'd like to invite Daniel McDonald to open the event with a welcome to country.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Thank you. I have the interpreters here that will be interpreting for me, and their voice will be interpreting, and thanks for the access. My name's Daniel McDonald. I'm a proud Indigenous man, and my family was from Wonnarua, northern New South Wales area. I'm here to do a welcome to country on Gadigal land. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, emerging, and acknowledge any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander people, brothers, sisters in here today. Any Indigenous or not Indigenous, I welcome you all. We're all brothers and sisters. And we enjoy getting together, and especially today. I wanted to acknowledge the Australian waters and the lands. Today is the 5th of August and we have a special event, and the theme is the Emerging Artists. Congratulations to you on the panel. I would like to say thank you for inviting me here to do the welcome on Gadigal land. I'm looking forward to hearing all the panel's discussions today. But firstly, I'd just like to tell you a brief story about gold, because we are all gold. As the morning sun shines in brightly gold through your windows, the golden sunlight glows. The flowers bloom and the beautiful colours. Butterflies emerge and fly across the sky, past those rainbows. Birds are singing out loud as the flowers grow into beautiful colours around us. There's nothing in our hands, but if we hold hands, we learn how to make a start, or how to make ourselves into a golden thing. We start seeing ourselves through a new future. We all go to our new golden world. We are all equal and we all share the same intuition. We have no barriers between us. It doesn't matter what is happening. We feel safe and care for each other. We need to remove the barriers, find the gold in our hearts and strength, and put your name on the list of gold. And it doesn't matter where or who you are, where you're from, but here today, we are still walking our golden pathways because I believe we are gold. We are all gold. On Gadigal land here today, there stands another one, another us. We are confident, proud and inclusive community. We acknowledge those who have come before us and fought and struggled to win as the independence and freedoms that we enjoy together today. Never give up hope. Never give up faith. Remembering past, respect, acknowledgement and love in the present, and inclusion. Understanding each other and hope for the future. The time is now.
Thank you, Daniel, for that beautiful welcome to country. Welcome, everyone, and I too would like to acknowledge that we are on Gadigal land. My name is Katrina Liberio, and I'm Assistant Curator with the Art Collection here at the Chowchak Wing Museum. A little background about the museum, in case you haven't been here before. Its origins can be traced back to the Nicholson collection of antiquities established in 1860, which also included paintings. This then expanded to include the Macleay collections, which is comprised of natural history, cultural and scientific objects, historic photography, and finally, the early foundations of an art collection. The Chowchak Wing Museum opened in 2020 with the purpose of bringing together these collections into one purpose-built building. We have almost 450,000 collection items. Of these, there are 28,000 antiquities, over 315,000 insects, 50,000 historic photographs, and almost 10,000 artworks. Not everything is obviously on display. However, in one visit, you can experience ancient civilizations, cultures of First Nations peoples, and great art. In my role, I work across curatorial programming, which includes exhibitions, events, and public programs. I research the collection and provide digital and physical access to objects, and work with the team to manage public art and campus loans across our many buildings. As today we'll be discussing what it takes to build a sustainable career in the arts, I thought I'd begin with my own journey. I started my career as a visual arts student at Sydney College of the Arts and volunteered in artist-run spaces. I worked in entry-level positions at the Museum of Contemporary Art as a gallery attendant, volunteer, intern, and exhibitions assistant. I've worked at the Biennale of Sydney as exhibition manager and have been with the university since 2012, initially part-time and a full-time role since 2015. I love what I do and have enormous respect for the people I work with. I've always advocated for greater accessibility and inclusive programming and know for sure that this work is ongoing and there is still much I need to learn. I'm honoured to be moderating today's session. The Chowchak Wing Museum are absolutely thrilled to be partnering with Accessible Arts on their Access Ideas and Insights panel series. The focus of today's session is the Emerging Artist Toolkit, a conversation exploring how to navigate the arts sector as an early career artist. We'll be unpacking everything from securing funding, building networks, to supporting more accessible opportunities and imagining what's next. I'm joined today by three incredible panellists who collectively bring so much insight into this conversation. Let me introduce you to Ava Lacoon on my immediate right, an emerging writer and curator and arts worker. To my left is Digby Webster, a multidisciplinary artist and two-time Archibald Prize finalist. And at the end, we have Kate Matthews, a creative producer with extensive experience working across local government and national cultural institutions. And now for some quick housekeeping before we begin. We'll have time for questions at the end. If you're joining us online, you can submit your questions via Slido. And for those of you here in the room, just raise your hand at the end and we'll bring around a microphone. We'll also have live captions and Auslan interpretation available throughout today's event. Now, I'll start with my first question, which is for Ava. So Ava, your practice is grounded in anti-colonial, queer and crip methodologies with a strong focus on creating space for community connection. Why is building a community important for new artists or curators, and how does it help? And how do these frameworks support that?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me here today, and I want to acknowledge as well that I'm on unceded Gadigal land. So community really is everything, especially for me. Frameworks enable the pathways that you can identify what you're fighting for and with. And so many of my values, both personal and as an arts worker, have come from relationships that I've had across arts communities, but then also being queer, crip, being a cowed person. And it's been really important to become a part of that web. And I'm a researcher, like in practice. And so as I've found these terms and histories as I've researched, I've learnt more about myself, and I've been able to find words or gestures that are able to describe things that are wordless or that I haven't been able to identify for myself. There are so many theorists that have taught me about myself and the sort of arts worker that I want to be, the kind of person I want to be. And so many of these terms, like for example, like CRIP is really important to me being a disabled person and reclaiming that. And so by using a word like CRIP, it's almost like a siren call for me. So when I hear other people say it, I know I'm safe and I'm able to see these webs everywhere. So like, for example, I think a lot of the time we can go into spaces and we don't see ourselves there initially. Recently, I've been working within an art gallery library, and from the outside or through the way that things are categorized, you would think there aren't any disabled artists there aren't many queer artists, because those aren't labels or subheadings. But because I'm a part of these communities and I'm a part of disability culture, I understand the ways in which we interact, our terminology, I'm able to identify all these disabled people. And so that means because of community, wherever I am, I'm always connected to lineages and webs and ancestry. So I never feel alone. And that's really important because, like all industries, but particularly the arts, like it's really important to maintain your values. And sometimes you are in situations that, you know, you're a bit torn, especially as an emerging person, on where you sit within hierarchies. And so being able to look around you and find connection everywhere, it's kind of like an amulet against my language, but like the BS of the art world that can sometimes occur.
Thanks, Ava. That's fantastic insight. I'd like to go to Kate next, if that's good. Yeah. Kate, you speak both government and creative languages, a space that can be hard to navigate for many artists. With that insight, how do you think arts organisations and funders can better meet disabled artists halfway and help remove real long-term barriers to a creative career?
Thank you. I wish I had really easy, just do these two things and then the world will be a better place for all artists. It's unfortunately not that easy. I've found sort of from the local government perspective, I'm an arts worker, that's what I'm speaking from today, is that it can be very difficult to get right, but that doesn't mean you can't try. And often I found it's artists' own self-advocacy that is really doing the great work at the moment. But thinking if you're here and you're also an arts producer, you're also inside an organisation, what can you do to better meet disabled artists where they're at? Is, I guess, speak your own organisation's language back to them when you are asking for access initiatives. Dive into your institutions or your organization's strategies and speak those words back to them when you're asking for things, to say, did you know that, I'm not actually asking for anything brand new here. I'm asking for something you already carved out and you said you wanted to do, and here's how we're doing it. And if there isn't a disability inclusion action plan in your organization, you can also look to strategies like audience strategies. And every organisation wants to expand their audiences. It's a common thing. And the 20% of Australians are living with a disability. And so if you want to increase your audience by 20%, including that community can be a really great way to do it. And to increase your audience of people living with disability is programming artists with disability. Yeah, I'll leave it there, but that's, speak it back to them.
Speak it back, okay. I'm going to move to Digby next, but I need to talk into the microphone, then I'll pass it along. Digby, you're an established multidisciplinary artist who has been a finalist in Australia's biggest art prize, the Archibald. What was it like to be part of something so big, and did it lead to any new opportunities for you?
Well, for me, the very first time I got into the Archibald Prize is in 2020, and I did a portrait of my friend named Neil, and he and I discussed about it, and I decided to paint him, and he painted me, and I went to his studio. He built like a frame for it, and then we carry it from in the car, drop it off at the art gallery, and I waited a couple more minutes, and they say you got in 55 finalists in the room of finalists of basketball. I'm so thrilled for my world to become an artist, and not just that in space, not that article, but in 2024, I went back in there again. I did a painting of a guy named Trevor Graham, he's a filmmaker. I painted him for it, and from that on, I put that in the article prize, and he went tour over around different galleries. And now I become, not just any artist, I become an article finalist nominee for that year, and I'm so pleased for myself in doing it.
Fantastic, absolutely great. I've got now a question for the panel, so you can all kind of jump in. There's often a sense of there's a bit of a secret to getting your work into bigger galleries or institutions, but it's not always clear how to make that first connection. What has worked for you in building those relationships, and do you think there's one way in or many? Who would like to jump in following Digby's great experience in the art gallery?
Once again, no set answer, no secret thing. Getting into organizations can be really difficult, but I would just, and I'm sure you've heard this before, just showing up is really important, being involved in programming. Ava and I were discussing, not to steal your point, we were just discussing before, like the best way to get into an organization and get your work out there is through public programming and is through delivering workshops and talks and things like that, and getting involved with those not necessarily the curatorial team of that institution. It's getting very close to the kind of live active things. They're constantly looking for new people to do programming. And from an interior perspective, looking out when I'm trying to program in the institutions that I've worked in, this sounds really boring, but often it's about a risk perspective that you want to program someone knowing that they are going to deliver. So how can you present your work in a way that minimizes the risk for them taking you on board? And that's just by presenting examples, which in what you have done, demonstrating you've done it before, demonstrating you have ideas, here is your process. And that can be hard to kind of eliminate risk totally, because you want it to be fun and have some creative flexibility along the way. And so by having options, here's plan A, here's plan B, here are things I can do, that can be one way for an organization to be like, yeah, I will program you if you are emerging, just to demonstrate that it's not this like total, oh, it's, not going to happen, or, not too sure what it will look like. Just really demonstrating that can be helpful for an organization to really take you on board if you don't have like decades worth of experience behind you.
Ava, anything to add?
Well, I'm still like emerging, but my greatest success at interacting with institutions has been through programming and through signing up and putting myself out there for different residencies. So I did the NGA digital writing residency that Joe Higgins ran, who's in the audience, you can talk to her later. And I'm a part of the Ripple internship program with accessible arts and diversity arts. And the brilliant things about those programs is there's like built-in mentorship, and you're immediately like talking about community. You're meeting other people around you who are emerging, who are in similar communities to you, and you really start to build that network, because once you're in a way and you're just connecting with people, like everyone is so often like recommending each other to different institutions, bringing up each other's names, sharing their work. Like there's a really beautiful celebration of each other. And I completely agree, like public programmings from everywhere I've worked are the most forward thinking out of any institution. They're aware of all the emerging artists on the ground and they want to help you, and they're really interested in growth. Like I've spoken to quite a few people where they kind of love the idea that maybe the performance you did at their event was a seedling for something that then years forward becomes a huge success, and you're performing it internationally, and they can say they were the ones that believed in you initially for that one night. And so they do love that kind of ruggedness and to follow the development.
Digby, any more to add? You've got nothing to say. You've done the art gallery. You're at the top. Fantastic. It also kind of brings me to the next question, which really sort of underpins a lot of this, is sort of access to funding. So for the panel again, it'd be good to understand from your experience in that, securing funding can be very complex, especially for artists with disability who need to factor in their own access supports, not just audience accessibility. What advice would you give to someone trying to navigate that process and make sure that access is properly funded in their work? Yeah.
I can start us off. Well, I've been, again, emerging, so I'm learning a lot. I'm in the deep with you guys. But I think demanding, recently I've really learned about access riders and the idea of being a diva as a disabled person and demanding what you want. And in your budgets, in all of your setups, I think that's my phone. That's for me to take my medication, and that is disability pride. Oh, that's okay. Diva behavior right now. I'm stopping the panel. Okay. Dismiss. Okay, sorry everyone. So yeah, demand your panel to stop for your access needs, but put it in your budget, and I think get to the point in which someone has to question you about why your access needs are included, because that's a really awkward conversation for them, and you can quote them their own strategy and say why wouldn't that be included. And also you can point out examples of what access means. Access is for everyone. Everyone naturally within their funding demands access, but they might not be doing it from a disability standpoint. So even saying they prefer working certain hours of the day, food intolerances, there are lots of things. And, you may know from being in the room, artists can be divas as well. So you're allowed to do that too. You don't have to step back or feel uncomfortable about it just because you're disabled or you're asking what is deemed a bit unusual or too much.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I love it when I receive access riders from artists who want to work with me. It's just always such a breath of fresh air. It's thank you for telling me what to do. So I would always in every circumstance recommend reaching out, being here is what I need. And also speaking quite bluntly and saying did you know when I have to include my access requirements in my artist fee, I get paid less than able-bodied compatriots. And when you say that to somebody, it's clear sometimes that's the first time they've heard it and they've thought about it in that way. And so by saying that to a person, they can then take that email to their manager and be are we okay with this? Are we sure this is what we really want to do? And so being very explicit with your needs is really important. If you ever have the privilege of setting up a funding round for a commission or everything like that, when I do it, there are pros and cons to setting up stipends and sort of things on top, but I always like to work to build an access stipend on top of the fee that you receive so that your artist fee isn't infringed upon if you have access needs. And that can be a really great way for people to just get the job done with what they need to do to have that extra funding on top. And the stipend can be from simple things such as if you've got a shared studio space, this is about creative space use. I need to wear, noise cancelling headphones while I'm there, or I need to take a taxi to get to where I need to go, or there's the things that you described. It can be very simple. It's not necessarily expensive, but by having that on top of the fee, I think that's really important when you're asking for funding. Always just ask, ask them. Hopefully they don't say no, but you really sometimes just need to push through.
Digby, with that in mind, how have you communicated when you need things, when you're working, say, with the art gallery or other places, about access and assistance with things? Do you just let them know up front? How does that happen?
I think you can go up there and go and ask them to help you and do things that you like to do and other things. I think like that. I know what other things they need to do, but if they could see somebody say, I'm struggling or need some help, just come and follow your dreams, really.
So it starts with a conversation, which is good. Okay, Kate, I wouldn't mind chatting to you about kind of measuring success. So when it comes to inclusive programming, what does this look like for you? And can you share examples of projects or approaches that really got it right and how you know they made meaningful impact?
Yeah, great. Big picture, talking about measuring success always goes down to data. Collecting good data when you are working on any programming helps the next program go even better. So taking great evaluation of what you're doing generally, capturing that, taking that seriously, digesting it, and then building that into future programming is really important. In terms of what inclusive programming looks like for me, I see it as like this golden trifecta of access when you're doing arts programming. That's inclusive programming. So are you programming artists with lived experience of disability? Are they invited to the sphere in whatever you're doing? Not necessarily if there is an identified stream. In all circumstances, it's appropriate. The second part of the trifecta is accessible participation. What kind of room have you built for your program? Who can enter that room and spend time in there? And then the third part is inclusive processes. So when you are working with an artist or when you are developing a space for somebody to attend, the way they work with you, is that accessible to them? Is email the best platform? Do they prefer phone calls? Do they prefer texts? What time of day do they prefer to be talking? Are your procurement systems set up such that you are able to pay somebody through an auspice agreement? Or I have had an example, heard an example that there is a procurement verification system where you have to answer something verbally on the phone, but that's not necessarily going to work for everybody. So do your systems and the way you work with somebody and setting it up, is that also accessible? And then if you're striving for those three things, that can make a really big difference. When you're trying to do programming, it's not just, do we have wonderful Auslan interpreters there? Like, is the building, does it have a lift? Is it a ramp? It is quite a lot more deeper than that. And it's often asking, do you have an access rider, which triggers people to think, actually, yeah, you know what? Like, there are a few things that would make this easier for me. Maybe they didn't want to send it, but if you open the door for it, that can make a really big difference. A project that went really well, acknowledging that best practice is a moving target. And if you ever say, yep, that's done, that's great, that's as good as it'll ever be, then you're already behind. Recently worked on the Creative Toolbox Symposium at Inner West Council. And I think that went really well because in the very first meeting with the producers, some of which are in the room, discussing that event when we were curating it was care was one of the core principles of the direction of this event, which was sector support for not just emerging but mid-career established artists in the area. How can we help? And by having care as the core principle of this event, it made access follow on so much easier. So by making that decision, it made this whole event so much more worthwhile. The second thing we did was bring on board Accessible Arts as an access consultant. And they were the first people that we engaged for this project. And that money was invaluably spent. We received so many fantastic learnings. That money was really easy to justify because, one, we'd peeled off that part of the budget, just as if we peeled off part of the budget for production support, for catering, for programming. The access money was really important. Kind of like a dragon with my hoard, I kind of protected that money as best as I could from other aspects of project management where it does sometimes get eaten away. I've lost my train of thought. But by having the principles of care and having accessible arts on board, that really kind of trickled down. But I was also granted the time to do it by my management. I was given the task. You are responsible for making this event as accessible as it can be. And so by allowing to have that time, we were an incredibly well-resourced team that really made a difference. So in your teams, you often could do it, but it's, you know, you need to carve out the time for your staff or yourself to make the access really, really worth it. And it was measuring success. It was measuring that feedback from attendees on the day. And the measuring success, so we use culture counts, is this system that we use to collect data. And it's fantastic because you're immediately benchmarked against the nation when it comes to what you're doing. So you can't really necessarily set the questions you want to say in the survey. You have to pick certain questions, but then you're benchmarked against what those questions say. And so if you want to get good data about what you're doing, you can immediately stack yourself up against the rest of the nation with that kind of dimension. That can be really helpful. And I guess the core takeaway from the Creative Toolbox Symposium was variety is the spice of life. Do things in a different way, and that's the best way to make it the most accessible, because there's no one perfect world, because people's access needs can conflict with somebody else's access needs. And so how do you justify that? Having as many options as possible in any aspect of the production, so the programming, back to the trifecta, the programming, the participation and the process, as much variety as possible, and that's how you can get as many people into the room.
Thank you. You said two words that I hear a lot: procurement, which gives me nightmares, and care, which I've noticed more and more coming into conversations in every aspect of kind of what we do here. So very great advice. Thanks, Kate. Ava, I would like to ask you, you're an emerging writer and curator. What have been some of the biggest challenges in starting your career, and what kind of opportunities have made the greatest impact?
So I think what's in common with like my most important experiences is mentorship and seeking experiences that are values aligned. There's also great benefit to doing projects and trying things and figuring out you don't like that specific thing. Finding what you don't like can also draw you closer to the values and the communities you care about. And that's something that I learned early on in my career, that figuring out what you don't like is also a blessing, especially if you get to it sooner rather than later. You're saving time. But I think one of the biggest challenges was frankly my own, internalized ableism, in addition to the ableism in the systems. And that shows up for me as my own burnout, maybe cutting myself off from community and points of access and care, and comparing myself to the traditional route of arts careers, the hustle and grind. You're meant to pump out a degree incredibly fast. You're meant to do it full time. You're meant to be taking on unpaid internships, and you're meant to be maintaining a social life and doing all these different things, doing freelance work, keeping up your social media. And so once I started destigmatizing that for myself and embracing non-normative timelines, especially with my degree, which I just finished, I really got to a point, thank you, where in the last year with starting Ripple, at the start of the year, I was okay, I'm at the point of burnout now where I need to stop doing things that aren't values aligned. There's just no point to it. And I was really intentional that I wanted to work with community and really allow myself to grow as a disabled arts practitioner. So in signing up for Ripple this year, that was a commitment to myself by putting in those boundaries and allowing myself to embrace. And I think those are the greatest opportunities to go for and really allow yourself, it's scary to allow yourself your access needs, to say your access needs, to say you need a break and be worried that you might get rejection, you might get someone who thinks that you're lazy and, those traditional ableist views, but to give yourself the space to try. So with Ripple, you get an internship. With other mentorships I've gotten, they allow you to really just practice and fail and make mistakes. And those are of definitely the most benefit.
Thank you. Digby, your turn. Success in the arts doesn't always come quickly, even when you're working hard. Did you have a moment when your art career really started to grow? What helped make that happen?
The very first time I did my artwork, very first thing I did paper and pen, and I found a table, and I put it in front of the TV, and I never ever stopped drawing since then. I watched TV and drawing, and I watched everything I like. And a very good inspired me is fairy tales, and also got into John Hurt stories, and he tells a story about amazing story about a heartless giant when his heart would be, and I fall in love with Jim Henson's puppets in his films and TV shows, and I got into those stories because they inspired me in my artwork, and I need to do a bit more of that for me now and make people happy. Someone in the audience said to me right now that she wants me to say a lady in the arts named Alison Wilkinson. She started my career as an artist because she got me a very first exhibition at Riverside Theatres. And from that on, I live in Annandale, and from that on, the Inner West Council, where I live, said, "Oh, we got some space close to me, and it's like a library." And they called my place up and asked me to put my artwork there, and all thanks to Alison, because she's the one who made me into an artist. And she did. I'm very proud.
I think you need, we all need a champion behind you. So that was Alison. And what was the next part? Tell us about selling out your exhibitions.
Well, in the past, I sold out all one only shows of my own artworks. Only man, only, well, not only man, I mean, as a person I am with Down syndrome, I sold all the shows of my own artworks, sold out. From the first and second and third.
Fantastic.
Done all my artwork and sold them all.
So success breeds success. I kind of hate that term, but I think that's, people start to see your work and then suddenly it's everywhere and everyone wants a piece. That's great.
I'm just going to cut in. We're having some technical issues with the projector, so if you need the captions, this projector is still working. So apologies, we're trying to fix the AV.
Technology. I've got another question for the panel, and this is something when we sort of discussed this session that we all kind of touched on was marketing. And as we know, there are many different ways to kind of market yourself or market your work through an online presence, through websites, social media and everything else. What's one piece of advice you'd give to artists trying to promote themselves and their work? Who'd like to kick it off?
I guess just don't be shy to talk about yourself publicly and do what you're doing, because again, if there's nothing out there about what you're doing, the risk thing, the institutions might not be like, oh, I'm not too sure what they're doing. So just go for it. No shame. It's not, that you've got a big ego. You've just got to do the hustle. And just, I hate to say it, getting out there is just one of the best things, thinking outside the box. We discussed before that like Instagram as a platform and Facebook and things like that are relatively unstable and not necessarily the best thing to do anymore, but what else is there really and things like that. I personally, I'm off Instagram. I'm not on it anymore. I was addicted. It was bad for my life. But now I have found myself like checking my email a lot more. And I and I spend time on Gmail and I read newsletters, and there are certain organizations that have a very personable newsletter. There is written text, there is a narrative maybe from their CEO or one of their programming staff, and I like that story-based marketing, and I like reading things that way, and that is just one slither of a little something, but everybody struggles with marketing. At the Toolbox Symposium, we had over 25 different workshops about all aspects of the creative sector, and the first one to sell out was Marketing 101. That was always the way. It had the longest wait list. Everybody wants to know. So if you ever feel like you're struggling, just know that you're not alone. When it comes to putting yourself out there, you're in there amongst everybody else. Ava, what are your tips?
Well, it's kind of one of those like do as I say, not as I do, because I'd say I'm not the best with self-marketing, but I think websites are the most important thing. And as of yesterday, I made a LinkedIn, so if anyone wants to connect, I had to finally do it. But just having something can point to, because obviously like social media isn't for everyone, and it's helpful for people who are trying to get you into programming as well, to be able to like flick off your website. And I had someone do that for me recently who, you know, I desperately need to update my website, but they managed to get me a deal, a photography gig, which I also do photography. And I was like, oh my God, but how do they know that I can do photography? And they said, oh, your website. Like I just flicked it to them. Even though I haven't updated it in like a year and a half, there's still that archive out there. So if you are someone who doesn't want to boast, it feels boastful, it feels really uncomfortable mixing work and social and all those dynamics. Just having one platform, LinkedIn, a website, all of your things are there. It doesn't feel like the ego is involved in it, and so you can just flick it off and be a bit, you know, nonchalant and like do it in a way that feels like you. Like I've seen these amazing people who are programming, they've been making keychains and programming them to have microchips. If you tap them, it brings up their website. Apparently super easy to do, and like, I don't know coding, but apparently I could do it. But like things like that is really suited to that kind of person who, if they're networking, they don't really want to explain about them, but they go, want to tap my keychain and have a look there. Or they've got a sticker. I know some people like will have zines, or they'll have really amazing artistic cards that I'll hold on to because they're just beautiful artworks in themselves, and it's such a like treat to receive that. I had an artist one time, I was talking to him about an exhibition, and he gave me a clay baby hand, like a tiny hand, which he was selling at the exhibition to remember him by, and he said that was his business card. And so every time I wear it on necklace, I get to promote him. So it was incredibly smart.
Digby, I've checked out your website, which is pretty fabulous. Has that been a sort of changed everything for you, and people can contact you, see what you do? Tell me about your website.
Well, my website, well, some people do email through my website saying what kind of works they like on there, because I make up the names in my own mind, and the people will see them and read the names that I want this, I want that, and they I didn't say that, but I thought they loved the name, and they email me, but I don't email back to them because I got someone who helped me with those things. So I do sell cars, and I got my business cards and all that kind of stuff.
Do you have Instagram?
I do, yep, and Facebook. Yep.
Can I just add that you also do your clothing work? That's your.
Oh yes. Yep. Thanks, Roselle. Thank you very much for saying that. Well, what did I open? Her name was Roselle, from Art Gallery. She said, I'm doing one of fabric crayons, old denim clothing, and I just do my own style, bright colours, draw it right on there. they don't come off while you first I draw them on, and then you put a little paper on top and iron them, and they never come off when you put them in the washing machine. They're stuck there forever. So it's that kind of thing.
A wearable business card.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
I had one final thought while we were talking. Again, going back to the Toolbox Symposium, one of the biggest things we really wanted to embed when we were talking with people to get the word out there about the event, we really wanted the right people in the room, was community engagement. And that really meant carving out from the very beginning that when we were engaging with another organisation to deliver an event, can you reach out to your community as a part of doing this, and make sure that they feel come along to what they're doing. Develop your program in a way that speaks to your community, so we know that it's kind of doing that in the right way. And that came to give a specific example. We were really quite interested in, so we had all sessions were Auslan interpreted, but we really wanted deaf and hard of hearing people to come. We wanted them to be there just to make sure that it was really something special. So we engaged Demon Derriere. She's the most fabulous, amazing person, sat down with her to discuss ways that we can make sure deaf, hard of hearing people are in the room and enjoy it. Sam is nodding. And that was fantastic. They made some Auslan interpretation promotional videos for us, and in an influencing sense, posted those videos themselves on social media, just to be like, hey, this event is accessible to our community. Please come along. I've talked about it. This should be really good, and hopefully that gets the right people in the room. So by carving out the time and space for community engagement, making sure that that community is welcome, what you're doing is for that community, and getting them there, that's a really great way to get people to come to things is community engagement. And especially as the event was unfolding and we were speaking with the Auslan interpreters, there is such a, there's a shortage, I suppose, of time, and it can be quite hard to book Auslan interpreters. And they were saying, it's getting to the point where we don't necessarily want to accept every gig that we're booked for, because if there's nobody there and then I can't have to knock back a gig where there is somebody who requires my services, I don't want to be up there as this box ticking exercise when actually I need it elsewhere. So in a way they wanted to screen, are you really trying to engage with the deaf and hard of hearing community so that I'm there in the right sense? And that was fantastic learning, just to make sure that your programming has to be interesting to that community, and reaching out to the community to make sure that what you're doing is right. That kind of exchange while you're coming up with what you're doing can be really important, and making it much more meaningful engagement with the sector.
Fantastic, thank you. We have one last question for the panel before we hand it over to everyone else. Okay, so imagining a better future. If you could design one system or structure to help more artists with disability thrive in the arts, what would it be? And where do you see real opportunities for change in the next few years? And what's needed to make it happen? Who wants to jump in? What would you like to see happen?
Money.
Money? Money?
Yes. I would like to see...
More clothing.
Clothing and money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
More money in the sector and then peeled away and protected for things like access, because what people don't seem to realise sometimes is that access benefits everybody, whether you're disabled or not. It makes everything better. And so by getting more money, and, if we spend as much on arts as we did on sport, things would be really different. It's hard to say one thing. Yes, I would change procurement practices in local government. I have a lot to say about that. There is some things I would change, but I won't bore you with it. There would just be more money for it. Sometimes I feel, in my own experience, I would rather programming be a little bit less and the access always be a little bit better. You can have, one less little offering, one nice little shiny thing, just to have the access a little bit better, doing it well, I think. So if people kind of head in that direction, but
Getting this question as a proposition was really exciting. And the first thing that came to mind as well about dreaming disability futures is that there are so many things happening right now, and it comes down to funding. Like, there are so many disabled community groups who are imagining, incredible structures and programming, and so I don't want to ignore and discount the fact that that is happening, but they're just not getting money, they're not getting support. I mean, the cutting of NDIS funding, like on a personal level, disabled artists and people with disability, chronic illness, neurodivergent people just need to be able to live and be able to survive and be able to, thrive. And so in order to have a future, like within these communities, we're able to dream, and it's a beautiful thing, but to make it on a larger scale, that's what we really need. And for, I do see a shift happening, but more institutions understanding that investing in disabled people is investing in everyone. Access is for everyone. And access is so much fun. Like, disabled people make the most amazing art, the most interesting content. Like, if you want a more interesting life, you will engage with disabled art more. Like, it's the best of the best, so...
100%. Digby, did you want to add anything about what you'd like to see for the future?
Well, one thing I'd love to see in my future is make people happy seeing artworks. I love to see myself on a scale of between fashion or more vibrant colours.
Thank you, all of you. Okay, it's now time for questions from our audience. If today's conversation has sparked a thought or a question, now it's your chance to ask our panel. And we'll begin with our in-person audience. Who would like to kick it off? Yep.
You had the hand up?
Should I do this one? No? Just here in the second row.
I think Simi just wants to say hello. Do you want to say hello? Okay, I don't have a question, but I do love you all and fantastic and thank you. And anything else? Sounds I make. That's Simi. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, we have one from Cam online. Is that okay? A little bit of an echo there. Okay, we're going to try over here. It's a little bit of a better view for the mic. All right, thank you, Cam, for asking. Joining from Canberra on Ngunnawal country, I'm an emerging artist and known and supported in community art circles locally, but I'm not known interstate. Is there anywhere offering mentorship in growing my practice and exhibiting interstate?
Thank you. Hello, Cam. Fellow former Canberra girly, big time Canberra fan. Yes, Canberra. It's such a lovely arts sector and community there. I miss it every day. Wish I could go back. It's tricky. Speaking from the local government perspective, that's where my experience is. It can be difficult to move states. Like, I'm also a practicing artist, and when I moved, I was ineligible for Arts ACT funding, for local funding in that sense, and I was still new to New South Wales. I didn't know that sphere, so to move over was really tricky. And, when you're spending ratepayers' money, it can be hard to justify bringing interstate people in. That's like a big government problem. They get really upset about it internally, and so I don't necessarily have such clear advice for you, Cam, but if you are internally setting up systems, try and advocate for people like Cam that there is a benefit to bringing in interstate voices into your programming, because by hearing other voices, hearing new experiences, we burst the bubble of our arts ecosystem. And so it can be really valuable to your local community to hear voices from other places, and that is a value to your ratepayers. So that's not necessarily so helpful for you now, Cam. Hopefully there are people in the room that are setting up this wonderful emerging artist mentorship for you, and they think, oh yeah, you know what, I do want someone from Canberra, so hopefully that helps.
We have a question. Both.
Okay. I'm going to pick on Digby because Digby is not doing his job. Yeah, I can see Jen getting annoyed at him. So I'm going to ask you some questions and confirm a few things.
Well, okay, pick on me. I don't care.
So Digby.
Mum loves it.
Yeah. So Digby, one of the staff beside Catherine asked you was about when you go to the art gallery, yes, you go with another person, yes, and you either have a support person, correct? And so when you go to the gallery, do you ask the person about your access, or do you even think about your access?
Well, let's say show them where all the amazing artworks are, like example for the art support or different exhibitions. Go to the front desk and tell them where those things are and get your tickets and go for it.
But let's just say for me, because I've also been the support worker for him.
Yeah,
So
you are.
when you and I go to the gallery,
Yeah.
do you tell me, Roselle, I need this person to tell me about my access, my needs?
I don't think I need any access.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. That's the answer. That's all. I'm going to annoy you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Digby. I've got another one from online here. Oh, is there any more?
No, is that for
Yep.
Digby or?
This is for everyone. It says, and I presume you all identify this way, hey, superstars. Got it. I can't be there in person. There is a huge pressure as an emerging artist to never let the foot off the gas. Don't we know it? And of course, many of us have rent to pay. Do any of you have tips for managing burnout or perhaps maintaining your career while burnt out?
What do you do, Digby, to look after yourself and while you're trying to keep your career going?
Keep on doing what you can do and clean up yourself and do whatever you like to do. That's what I like to say to myself.
Looks good. Anyone else?
I think for me, when it comes to burnout, like it is just a natural thing that occurs, and I'm still working it out, and I'll be working out probably for the rest of my life how to navigate. But it is definitely hard as a disabled person to not think that there's this like clock going on both for you because you're a disabled person, which is like a unique, lived experience, but then also like what if people disengage interest in my work? What if, I only have a certain amount of time where they're interested, so I have to pump this out, I have to really maintain this momentum. And ultimately the way to counter that is within yourself, because I know for me, I've enabled that sometimes, and I'm also telling myself that that's what people believe. Like, I won't ask for extensions, I won't ask for help, and then when I'm pushed to the point where I just can't submit something or can't hand it in, that's when I do ask for help, and I'm always met with like so much kindness and reassurance and help. So just actually communicating and allowing yourself that grace before you get to the point of burnout, because whilst there is a lot of ableism and, a lot of difficulties and different structures and beliefs, like there are some really good people, and everyone, like a lot of people experience burnout and come across lots of, whether it's family things, like lots of things come up. So it's best to just talk about it from the start. I almost sometimes in a way like anticipate that I will get burnt out. Like it's just natural and there's a cycle, and so I know my patterns and things as they pop up so I can identify them. And for Ripple, we had this really helpful session in which we had Sparkly Brain Psychology come in, and she was saying to us, like, write down all the ways in which you know you're showing signs that you're in burnout. Like, what are your warning signs for yourself? Because often it's a bit too late when you identify that. So almost having your own like manual to yourself to remind you and have a look at it and go, am I feeling any of these things, like a checkbox? Oh, okay, I am presenting some of these symptoms right now. I haven't seen this person. I'm not doing this activity that I love. This is indicating something that maybe I'm not able to connect and like fully understand yet. Do you have any?
I'm just thinking, like, from a programming perspective, how to help your artists have the best go at a sustainable career, thinking again about the care, if that kind of extends through everything that you do, is just giving everybody enough time. Like, if you think, oh, this project is going to take 2 months, just add an extra month, give the artist time to work on it. Not necessarily saying that they're going to like work for 3 months for 2 months pay, but add in extra time so that it does spread out a little bit more. There is space in there to them to really think about it, manage other things. Everybody has a lot going on constantly, so giving artists really a lot of time to work on things. One of the worst times, I think, for me in the arts is the kind of end of financial year rush, that sometimes there's like a little bit of money left over and you really want to spend it so you don't lose it, which is this thing I don't understand. And they could often, I have seen many times, a pressure to deliver a program before the end of financial year and throwing things out in that sense. And that always frustrates me because it doesn't necessarily align with the strategies and the long-term planning, and that's when maybe artists can be asked to kind of really stretch themselves really quickly. So just being really cognizant that throwing money at artists isn't necessarily the best thing to do if you're not giving them the time to really do something they actually really want to do with it.
We have a question right in the back.
Hi, thank you for your time. Like, you have such great wisdoms. It's been a juicy convo. As this is like the emerging artist toolkit, I'm going to roll with this metaphor. And I'd love to know what is like the one tool in your kit that you think is a must and would love everyone to know who's joining us in person and online today.
Just because I have the mic, I feel the pressure to go first. It's always just taking a moment before anything begins to meet in person, have a coffee and talk about things, to just have that moment of connecting, that moment of pause before diving in, seeing where each other is at, being like, hey, what's going on for you in the rest of your life at the moment? Like, what context are you bringing to this story? And I think that can be really useful as a producer to just set things in the right tone, make sure everybody's on the same page and expectations are met, and things like that. Is just that carve out that time for that very specific one-on-one chat at the beginning of a project. It sounds really simple, but I find it really effective.
I think following on to what I was saying earlier about values, like really taking the time to sit down and figure out your core values and have a practice of like reminding yourself of them. My friend Naomi Siegel has this amazing practice of making amulet cards, and we had this amazing session in which we were able to make those values on cards and display them in our space. And so before I start a project, recently on a project, I have like some podcasts that I've listened to like 20 times now, and so I listen to it on my way there. So one specifically is the Hologram by the White Pube podcast, which is great, to remind myself of why I'm interacting with this arts project, why I'm meeting, what I want to achieve out of it. Again, like, what am I fighting for? What am I wanting out of this connection that goes beyond, this is a job, this is X amount of hours. And so always kind of having those like 4 values, whether, you have a physical card or you have some objects or something around you that like re-grounds you with everything you go into.
Digby, did you want to add anything about what you have in your toolkit or what you use to kind of connect, make yourself feel good, think about how to maintain so you don't get too burnt out, you don't get too tired?
I'm not that tired now, but burnout is, I don't know what that is, but sometimes when I run out of my energy, I feel tired, but out of all, I'm so happy to be here anyway and talking about all this stuff to everybody. So.
Great. one more question.
We have one more in fourth row.
It's me again, Roselle Digby. So, when you say burnt out, which you said you are getting tired, yes? So there are times that you get tired. So how do you, when you, let's just say you're sitting there and you're getting tired, that is one part of the burnout as well. So how do you deal with your being tired now?
It's because, I've just been working this morning and then I'll be coming home, have my lunch, and then I'll come straight here and talking on the panel. So that's why I feel a bit tired, but I'm not anymore because I'm happy to be here, talking to everyone about and listening to others in this room about their experience. And I'm happy to talk about my own experience too. So,
Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Any more questions? Okay. I think I've just got my last little bit of reading to do so I don't forget anything. Well, this brings us to the end of our panel. A big thank you to all our amazing panellists for being so generous today, sharing your experiences and knowledge about what can be a pretty tricky system to navigate, building a career in the arts. I know I've learnt a lot and I hope our audience has done too. I'd now like to hand over to Liz Martin, CEO of Accessible Arts, to close the panel with a few words.
Thanks everyone for such a beautiful hour or so to spend together. If you don't know Accessible Arts and you're an emerging artist or a mid-career artist or a professional artist, really connect with us. Website aarts.net.au. We have loads of programs for you. I wish we had more, but we have some. So we have a lot. We have something for everybody. We have the residency at Bundanon Trust. We have Next Level Creative Mentorship. We have the Ripple Internship Program. We have Advance Your Career series. A lot of this stuff is available online. Some of it's even available to people from Canberra, Cam. So please connect. There's a community. We are a community. We are a culture. Please connect with us. Accessible Arts is proudly disability-led. We work with artists with disability and who are deaf across New South Wales and the ACT. And it's been really fantastic to hear from each of you this afternoon. I've learnt a lot. I've been reminded by a lot of the things you've said about my own arts practice. I feel like I'm forever emerging, as a lot of us do. So thank you so much. Thank you to Daniel McDonald for a beautiful welcome to country, as always. Thank you to Chowchak Wing Museum for having us in this beautiful partnership. It's been really lovely to be in your space and feel so welcomed. Thank you especially to Katrina Liberio. Oh, sorry. I practiced and practiced. Liberio, we'll go with. For your wonderful emceeing. Craig Baker and Felicity Nibbs for all the work you did for us in the back. It's been really, really appreciated. Thank you to our wonderful panel, Kate Matthews, Ava Lacoon and Digby Webster. I'd like to give a big shout out to the wonderful Accessible Arts team and thank each of you for your ongoing hard work. Also, thanks to Live Crowd for the streaming, beaming across the country this afternoon. Thank you to Sweeney Interpreting and the Captioning Studio, and to our funders, Create New South Wales and City of Sydney. And And thank you to each of you for coming and being with us this afternoon, both in person and online. It's been a great way to spend some time. Our next hybrid event will be our first one in Western Sydney, and we're very excited. We'll be at Campbelltown Arts Centre on the 18th of September, so keep your eye out for more details about that one. There is just a few things I wanted to let you know about. There's some great access, public access that you can attend online. Accessible exhibition design will be on Friday the 15th of August. Creative access will be on Thursday the 2nd of October. Disability confidence training will be on Thursday the 23rd of October. We're also at the moment in partnership with Crips and Creeps and Arts on Tour, touring Are You Pulling My Leg, which is a comedy show, which we've been touring for about a year. And if you're anywhere near Laycock Street Theatre, Dubbo Regional Theatre, or the Pack in Cessnock, I really recommend that you check it out. It's a hoot and hilarious to boot. For those of you in the room, I invite you to stay with us for a little longer and share a cup of tea. If you're online, I invite you to share us a cup of tea online. And we'll see you again on the 18th of September. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.